sometimes it can be difficult as a young coach, or it's not applicable to just age, just as a coach, for any of us to forget the ego and go to somebody else and ask for their input and their experience. And what do you think is key to overcoming that, I suppose?
Self-awareness, because someone who is self-aware understands the limitations and is accepting, and it takes what you would call an ego death to get over that. But how you get there is by being in an environment and creating an environment in your life that allows you to do that, allows you to be vulnerable, allows you to go, do you know what? I don't know. I actually don't know. I'm stuck. Can you help me, please? And be proud to say that, because, I'll run out of fingers and toes, and the amount of times athletes have said to me, like, what are we doing here? I said, I don't know. I ain't got a clue. Should we just figure it out? And then it's like, yeah, all right. That sounds like good fun.
How are you, mate? What have you been up to today? How's the day going?
I'm good. Yeah, coached this morning. It's change of direction day for my rugby players this morning. And then a bit of work, got a couple of manuals in the pipeline. So been working on those, which is good. But busy, yeah, enjoying it. But I buy my time back. I literally just did 45 minutes of yoga and 30 minutes in the sauna. So
getting ahead right. Sweet. What were you up to this morning? You were on change of direction. So tell us a little bit about that, like what you were at specifically, what you can anyway.
Yeah. So the guys that I've been working with now have been in with me twice a week for the last 4 months or so. And we've taken them through, so they come twice a week. We do a linear day on Tuesday and then multi-direction on Thursday. And we've taken basically where we are now with our development is we are looking at scenario work for 1v1 attack and defense and stuff like that. And where I've seen one of the gaps that a lot of coaching comes across is that it's kind of like, right, now we're doing agility, but they don't do any scenario. They won't break it down. I've come up with a few games with the players' help as well. And we go through this process of actually the defender helps the attacker to, show space or hide space. And we actually started that process of basically like a drill where the attacker will be 2 meters away from the defender, and he'll just have to jog at him, and he'll just have to keep trying to turn the defender side to side and take the defender, and start to recognize cues and triggers on when a shoulder's closed, open, if they sit on the back foot, to then start understanding how we manipulate and move an opponent. And then from there, we take that. There's a lot of applied drills and principles that we use, and like special strength training stuff. But then the next step is actually understanding time and space and how early you need to start performing change of direction. And the big gap between guys that are successful and guys that aren't is that successful change of direction happens at 5 meters in front of the defender. Doesn't happen late, because that's agility, that's reactive. And then so as soon as you're just like, how fast can you run? So we say to them, how fast can you run? What's top speed? Like 9.5 meters per second. Okay, so if you're running 80% of that, so you're at 8 meters per second, something like that, when do you need to start manipulating your opponent? 1 meter away, 2 meters away? And like, take 5, and that's probably still close enough. And then we start seeing success and building it out. And it's really nice because they have good fun. And to teach time and space a bit more, I stole the idea from boxing, really, when they've got the foam sticks.
Yeah.
So we just start early with don't get hit by the stick to understand space, because you just put another meter on the defender's arm, and then you start bringing the sticks into all different scenarios, and then you just take the sticks away, because then they recognize who's on front foot and who's not. You don't even need to get a shipper in, because the way that I would like to see athletes moving is clearly beating players, not catching weak shoulders.
Yeah. I've loads of questions for you on this, because this is something that I absolutely love. So obviously the athletes that you're coaching in the morning, they're either professional or semi-professional. So so you have already worked with them on the mechanics of change of direction before you move into the reactive component and the visual component, which is what you're kind of talking about there. So it sounds to me that are they in kind of an SPP kind of phase, or do you use a GPP and SPP in your change of direction as well?
Yeah, so no, they are definitely more in a special prep phase, but we will always have elements of GPP within the session. So now the GPP work is self-administered, and it's warm-up. So they'll do their basic warm-up, and then they will work into their wall drills. They'll understand their sequencing and patterning. So we take on the wall, you may have seen it, the one that really opened the door for them and a lot of their movement is you go from an open step, which is inside leg up, fire into a crossover, and then re-switch into a reorientated acceleration. And so they end up face onto the wall. And then as soon as they start getting that patterning, you just see them crossing over like mad and bouncing back out. Because again, it's kind of like there's huge stones not unturned with applied change direction that you just see everywhere. Like I've started developing like a test, like it's a double 45-degree cut test, where it's 45 degrees out 5, 45 degrees back 5. Someone commented on it and they were like, no, it's a 90 degree cut but good drill. I was like, absolutely not. It's a 45-degree deceleration into a 45-degree cut acceleration. And so then it breaks things down. It's like, well, how do you prepare braking? How do you actively decel? And then how do you turn? It's Newton's third law. How do you reorientate that decelerative force back into positive change direction, positive acceleration projection? So we break it right down. And I'm speaking with Catapult at the moment to start looking at some of the accelerometer data on that drill. So we're looking at like force conversion efficiency, which would be like pretty cool if it can actually come off. Who knows? Just an idea.
Yeah, it sounds amazing, and it sounds like you're putting you're trying to test change of direction as opposed to trying to change agility, because as you stated earlier, it's fairly impossible to assess agility. Change of direction will obviously lead into agility. All the tests out there at the moment all classify themselves as agility tests, even though there's no reactive component, I suppose. But yeah, like I'd be interested. I'm just thinking in terms of, I have hashed that out before with other strength conditioning coaches in terms of the ideal cut is at 45 degrees. But then just from being a rugby nose and watching all these highlight videos of all the amazing steppers, it's not all of them will step at 45 degrees, if you know what I'm getting at. Everybody steps differently and everybody does it differently. And it's a skill, I suppose. Same thing as passing a rugby ball, kicking a rugby ball. There's no one true way of doing it. But obviously if like you can't assess everything. And if your test seems to be one of the most applicable, in my opinion anyway, to actual change of direction.
Yeah, so we're asking the question in that test really of what, so because the athlete is actually continuing to move forward down the field, we're looking at what are they, so we've taken basically, if you look, when you're race modeling and stuff and looking at linear sprinting from a standing start, you want to see obviously decreases in 10-meter splits. as the athlete continues to accelerate. So one of the questions we're asking is through gate from gate 1 to 2 to 2 to 3, how much are we dropping off? Because if we're not dropping off, then we're not cutting, we're not changing, we're not converting speed. And then from gate 2 to 3, can we keep accelerating? And then if we line up GPS with that, we can see actually if my guy is fucking bouncing like a pinball down the field, he can still hit 80% of max velocity. It's going to be hard to deal with. And that's where, like, all fitness testing and stuff like that, still relative to the sport, is still general. So you have that freedom to ask those general questions, but for more specific KPIs. And like even today, part of the stuff that we were looking at were the difference between an open step cut, a crossover cut, a jump cut, and then like we just call it like a dab step, where you come in and you bounce off the same leg and then go. And so we're exploring all these different options from different angles and just playing around with it really, because at the end of the day, like you've played, I've played, when you're out there, you don't think about it, you just do it. And if you've trained it well enough, then the body's gonna know. And we even coach spins. Like we the guys love a spin, because like you don't see enough of them. And if you can teach a player just to bounce out and go on a spin, like even if they get hit, they're rolling out of it. So it's like, just have all these tools in your armor to keep using, you know?
That's what I was just about to say. It sounds like just building the arsenal, but the word I'm going to focus on that you used was playing around with it. And it sounds like it is play, like it's adult play. And I just wondering how you fostering that kind of enjoyment within the session.
Yeah, so basically the way the sessions are structured is we have learning components, loading components, execution components. And so like even in this specific special block that we're sort of in, the play is only 15 minutes tops, where we're going. But then like today I'll whole coach it as well. So when the smiles are on their faces and they're loving it, like we even had a TMO today, like the guy thought he got caught, didn't get caught. We got the TMO out and he got caught and he had a foot in touch as well. So it was great.
You give it one of them?
Oh yeah. I was like this with my phone. Let's go. and so, but then this is where like the coaching side of it comes in. We break it down, right? Get around the phone. What are the options? And we've always got 2 guys spare. And when they're spare, they're not spectating, they're coaching. So like one of the guys today said we had a drill where you're tight on the touchline, you've got a defender tracking you back that starts a few meters afterwards. There's another color cone, which is the release gate. And he goes straight away. It's like he hugged the touchline too much. He hugged it too much. He didn't get offline to get back online. And then the defender didn't turn and he got caught. And this is a back row against a winger. So the back row's got to be better at manipulating space with a winger to offset him. 2 reps later, he ghosted him, twisted him up, turned him completely inside out, because they see it and do it. And that's the beauty of the private stuff that I like, is that, you know, when I was in club, it was like, oh, back row can't do speed with backs and props aren't allowed to do this. And it's like a load of horse shit, really. But you want like, why aren't they running fast enough, or why do they keep getting hurt? It's like, because you treat them like plodding dogs. They're not. And so I've got 2 back rows. I've got a girl, she's a GB7s. I've got a tall, basically spider monkey winger who's like he should break 10 meters per second, like when we can get him right. And then another couple of like backs that are smaller. So you've got all different shapes and sizes, and they're just teaching each other, learning each other. And when you get a back row that's like 122 kilos, stepping a winger and burning him, it's just like you're doing something special. And then the winger turns around and he's like, fucking yes, have that. Like fair fucks, dude. Yeah. And it's just a great environment that you can operate in. And we only do 2 hours a week, and that's all it is.
Yeah.
So we just get in, get it done, and have good crack.
Yeah, and it sounds like the competitive element is crucial to it as well. Like they're all highly competitive and they want to do each other in, like I get around it and
Yeah,
ghost each other, as you said. And that's when, like, as a coach,
yeah,
you're on the sideline, like jumping up and down and enjoying it as
yeah,
most you
yeah.
can. But yeah, that's great.
And we've taken like 3 to 4, like we were about 4 months in. It's taken a while to get there because it's like you've got to earn the right to drive. You have to. It's like the goal is like, that's why they come see me private. I can fire them. I don't have to work with them. So, which is amazing position to be in. It's like, if you want to get better, tell me why, show me how, and we will get it. And if you're not owning this step work, if you're not drilling your warm, like I don't warm them up, I teach them the warm up. Anyone new that comes in, the players teach them the warm up. That's not my responsibility to prepare you for a session if it's all in place. And then they own their step count, and then they once they get the principles and they appreciate all of that, then it's then we can go. Then we can go, and we've got testing next week, which should be pretty good fun. Been going after a few different metrics, and this is what we can play with as well. It's like, with group under 10, we're assessing all the time. So max velocity, we've gone for a hard block of trying to find more frequency, and that's really difficult with really big people. Like we were talking the other day, I don't know if you saw my Instagram stories, like athlete chats. Like, it's really easy to be fast if you're under 90 kilos. You're just light. And it's like, these guys are 100+ kilos, and you're just like, yeah, try and find leg speed out of this. It's a different kettle of fish.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. And that is another thing, like in terms of what you're saying, like why can't a forward do this? Like why can't a guy that's over 100 kilos perform this skill? It's because generally they're deterred from doing it by coaches say, oh well, you shouldn't be going doing that, you shouldn't be working on that, just work on what a person in your position should be doing. And that's not the way the world works. Like you need to try and experience all these different things, because you can't just be the same as everyone else. But an interesting one that I want to follow on then is, it sounds like that was all a rugby group today, and they're all rugby. I was wondering if, because there are similarities between rugby and, I know you work with like gridiron athletes, so like CFL and American football. Do you ever have them train together and they might pick up things off each other, or do you separate them completely?
No. Yeah, so end game, that would be good. Like, it would be good to just have a multi-sport speed group, because that in itself is the holy grail. Like, because you will have so much influence, and like, because team sport athletes are developmental sprinters, and that's and that's a huge process to own. And like, it frustrates me, and it's like when you see people post, oh, I got this speed, I got that speed, it's like so and so runs this fast, and it's like, that's amazing. And then my athletes are like, well, he runs this fast, why can't I run this fast? Like, fuck, man, you got 30 kilos on him. And so, like, to have, and this is why I like having heavy guys and light girls in the same group. They just find different things. And if you were to go cross sport, like, it would be really nice to have, if you were doing a short speed session or a short change of direction stuff, like chucking a basketball player in there, because we do so much jockey work. Like, get a basketball player jockeying the hell out of a rugby player. Like, it's gonna be special. And then obviously the rugby player is going to help the basketball player linear sprint, work on his 3-4 step push, and that would just be amazing. But I mean, at the moment, with the guys that I'm prepping for the CFL, I was brought in on 3 to 4 weeks notice because of COVID and stuff like that. It's like, right, we need to shave some tenths off their tests. What have you got? Like, okay, here we go. So that's very task specific. It's literally training people to test, which is fun. The numbers won't lie, which is what I like. And because that's your proof, isn't it? It gives you that stamp, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and it's very specific as well, I suppose. So what what the outcome has to be, I suppose. So it's a little bit easier. Like it's like when you give me that broad task last week, and I was like, oh, mate, how do I do this? Like you've given me the most general question of all time. Like, but you referred to the Holy Grail being multi-sport, kind of group working together on speed. And just for a little bit less specific or broader question, then to go along with that, you're obviously building something yourself, but what is the goal like as a coach, and what do you want to build? What is the ideal scenario that you'd like to build in a couple of years?
You know, I mean, we sort of spoke about this before a little bit. Like when I lost my job at Ealing, I learned a lot, and I mean to lose it in the way that I did was just put so much emphasis on doing the right thing, and the right thing is what I want to be doing, and it is what mattered and met with me. And so I mean the goal really now, broadly help people, massively help people. It's just why, you know, I put so much effort and energy over the last sort of year behind the mentorship program. And then like it kind of like, hopefully, you know, you may be able to see it, like, because we've got the mentorship program, we're producing resources for young coaches and senior coaches to go, right, take these progressions and sequences, lift them and go use them. Like plug and play stuff to stop coaches from obsessing about the things that they don't need to obsess about, and open up this other complete avenue of their life. They can coach freely rather than spending, you know, I remember the first time I got on a GPS on my day off, I did like 15 hours straight. And it was just like, what am I doing? I'd rather someone just like was like, here you go, take this. This is how you do it. You can just then go and start looking at numbers rather than building a fucking thing that to look at numbers. And so, you know, the big goal, you know, I'm 33, vision, you know, just bought my first house, you know, get married, have kids, start a family, build a big, you know, business, and be well known for that, in terms of actually not only helping athletes, but, you know, a big part of it, especially some of the journeys that I've not really spoke about with some of my athletes, you know, really helping them change their life. And that's huge. You know, I don't think I will be coaching S&C forever, but I will be I'm riding this wave so hard at the moment, and you just don't know where it's going to turn up, and keep being someone that's not bound by a badge, that's not subject to all of that stuff that goes with it, the politics, and being able to just exist and help, and just really help and give athletes what they need. That's impossible from being inside the system for such a long time. It's impossible to give every athlete what they need, and clubs should be more open-minded to allow consultants and freelancers to work with athletes outside to give them that attention. And that's kind of like where I want to sit. It's always self-talk, Jerry Maguire is strength and conditioning, and just do the business, you know.
Yeah. It sounds like you're focused on the process as well, rather than the end goal or the outcome as well, which is obviously key. So that's it. That's a good answer. I'll give that an A1.
Good.
You mentioned there that as a young coach, you were having to figure out things for yourself, like the GPS, like took 15 hours or whatever. Sometimes it can be difficult as a young coach, or it's not applicable to just age, just as a coach, for any of us to forget the ego and go to somebody else and ask for their input and their experience. And what do you think is key to overcoming that, I suppose?
Self-awareness, because someone who is self-aware understands their limitations and is accepting, and it takes what you'd probably, like, you would call an ego death to get over that. but how you get there is by being in an environment and creating an environment in your life that allows you to do that, allows you to be vulnerable, allows you to go, do you know what? I don't know. I actually don't know. I'm stuck. Can you help me, please? And be proud to say that, because, you know, I'll run out of fingers and toes, and the amount of times athletes have said to me, like, what are we doing here? I said, I don't know. I ain't got a clue. Should we just figure it out? And then it's like, yeah, all right, that sounds like good fun. And that's kind of, but then as a coach as well, there's kind of like this pressure, or internal pressure is telling us, oh, we need to know the answer. You know, I'm the coach, so I've been put in a position of authority, so I have to exercise and live up to that authority that I've been given. And it doesn't work. It really doesn't work, because it makes you lack humility and empathy, and it dehumanizes you, and that's the difference. And to get over that, you know, it takes a lot of looking in the mirror and asking some questions, and figuring some stuff out, and then just taking that step of being like, I wonder if I said I don't know what's going to happen, and just test it out. And then just see. Like, I went into a gym session one day, I was fucking tired, man. Like, when I was at Ealing, I was a senior S&C. I was managing 4 interns, running the return to play, speed and power for the whole program, doing the backs, and there was something else that I was doing, and I was just fucked. Like, I was so bad. Like, I ended up getting norovirus. I was running to the ground, and I remember walking into a session, and I was like, lads, can you just do me a favor and just shut the fuck up and get on with it, because I'm having a really bad day. They were just like, yeah, sure, coach, no worries. I was like, I'm just going to sit, and can you just can you crack on? Like, yeah, sweet. You know, then it's like, do you want a glass of water? You know, what's going on? You know, then it's kind of like, it becomes a process.
Yeah.
And that was quite funny. It was always a turning point, you know?
Yeah, but it seems that like the thing you're afraid of is showing your true colors or whatever, and showing your true self. And then when you act, like, there's no need to be afraid of it, because when you actually say, even just say, I don't know, or I'm having a bad day today, or whatever, the athletes actually respect it a little bit more, and you can actually try and build some sort of a relationship with them, which is the number one thing, I guess. So what would be some of your techniques?
Can't build.
Go on.
Yeah, okay. Because I was going to say, I was like, you can't build a positive relationship with an athlete if you don't talk to them like a human being.
Yeah, that was the answer to the question I was about to ask. So we're on the right, we're on the right wavelength.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And that's true. Like, because I had my business before, I was PTing and coaching before I ended up in pro sport, and you know, from being a player, and you know, taking my rugby really seriously, and I kind of had an inkling of what it was like, not at the pro level obviously, but you know, have annoying coaches with power trips going down your neck and XYZ, and empathy is the way. And I always said to myself, the club is paying you, but treat your athletes like they are, and then they'll treat you like they're paying you as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's how that relationship really fostered. You know, one of my guys at Wasps, I ended up PTing his missus after work. You know, I ended up building such a relationship with him that he, you know, I was around his house having tea.
Yeah, that's the dream, I guess.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just humans.
Yeah,
human beings.
Exactly, helping each other.
That's the big part of it.
Yeah, so that kind of ties into what I suppose my next question was obviously I was doing a bit of research before we did the call, because I know you to talk to you, but like I was like, what about what went on prior to when we knew each other or whatever? And everywhere it said like Sam Portland, elite strength and conditioning coach, elite. So I thought an interesting question would be to ask would be, what is your version of elite strength and conditioning coach, or what does that mean to you?
So elite, why I would call myself elite is an affirmation. 100%, it's an affirmation. It's a direction, and elite doesn't mean, people associate being elite with coaching the top players in the country, the best clubs in the country. Trust me, I know people that are in those positions. They are not elite. They're just really good at saying yes, and so, like, they'll just sit tight and eat shit, basically, and because they want the badge. But elite for me is, in my mind, when, I'm Sam Paul, an elite strength and conditioning coach, Jerry Maguire, strength and conditioning, just loves it, and that's it. And it puts you in this mindset where, I can be elite by helping one of my 9-year-olds. I've been I've been coaching this 10-year-old kid. He's from up in Suffolk. His name's Hugo, right? He messaged me ages ago, and he was like, I want to work on my speed and and I just coach him through Instagram, send him exercises to do, and he goes and does them with his dad and his granddad, and he sent me a message the other week like, Sam, look at this now. I've been doing this every time, every session, and like, to me, that's elite, because you're changing someone's life. And he's now in Cambridge Academy, because he was slow. They didn't think he was fast enough. He's now got a bit faster, and he's in Cambridge Academy. That's elite. You've taken someone through this process, and I've not given him speed. I've given him the wonderment of what he can achieve, and that's one of my favorite words. Have the idea and be romantic about what you can achieve, because it's there, and that's elite. Not being scared by all the scarcity thoughts, based thoughts, pretty much. So that's what I would call elite.
Sweet. It's gas as well, because it's always the younger kids as well. They're always the ones that drop the knowledge bombs and put perspective on you as well when you're coaching them. Like, you're chatting to the adults or whatever, and you're on the same wavelength, and you're in the bubble, I suppose, of society and stuff like that. And then you go to coaching under 12s or whatever, and they're just enjoying it, and they're just playing, and they're just free, and they just come out with some hilarious stuff. And
pure humility. And it's fantastic. And that's why I have the academy. And my assistant, he runs it, and he's done a fantastic job over the last sort of 5 years or so. And I go there to feed my soul. When it's up and running, I'll go a couple of times a month, and I'll just sit and I'll shoot the shit with these 10-year-olds. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'll coach them, I'll put their weights away for them, and just ask them how they're doing. And it literally just enriches you. And they're elite. They follow their programs. They got their programs, they do it, they coach each other. They think.
We've just lost Sam, unfortunately, but I'm sure he'll be back in a second. He's back.
Oh, shit.
No, don't worry.
Sorry.
We're back again. Don't worry.
Like, they're elite. That process is elite, because it's an internal drive,
Yeah, 100%. And that sounds like a very positive direction to go with your coaching, I suppose. So my next question to you would be, if we are to grow not only strength and conditioning, but in terms of all coaching as an industry, and achieve this higher level, I suppose, what are the changes that we have to make as coaches, and what are the barriers to us doing that, in terms of living in a modern kind of social media driven age, if you get me? It's a big question now as well, sorry.
So I see definitely. No, the first thing that comes to my mind, which I really struggle with, is how you, like, every S&C coach is a philosopher, but none of them fucking know themselves. And do you know what I mean? And so it's, you've got, so-and-so's model, we've got this model, we've got that model. Like, you are literally projecting false truth, because you've not discovered enough. you know. I think it's so true, you know, that for a psychotherapist or a counselor or whatever, they have to undergo their own therapy. They have to get through everything. I think that process should be in place for S&C coaches, because, you know, you see a lot of them talking about psychology and talking about these things, and they're very dangerous topics to start portraying and start projecting out there. And I think for people to grow and the industry to grow, there needs to be a lot higher level of self-awareness. When will we see a higher level of self-awareness? When people stop arguing about bullshit on social media and Twitter, and antagonizing people, publicly going after other S&C coaches just because they don't like what they're doing. You know, there are some cases in America where kids have died, which that should be dealt with. But if someone wants to just do a training modality, then fucking let them do it. Crack on, mate. Like, I wouldn't lose sleep over it. You don't have to start bullying people. And that's essentially what it is. And that higher level of self-awareness is going to start unlocking things, and then we'll actually be humbled by what we do, and realize that, you know, how many girlfriends is it going to take to lose to realize that the job's not worth it, and all those sorts of things, you know. And that's real. And then in terms of, like, from an actual practical applied point of view, I think they need to close the gap from where, you know, with medical and S&C, where the medical training is how not to hurt people. S&C is how to push people. And there needs to be a united front in there, like, that gets pushed forward. And I think we need to be, better at understanding load. Because if you work with a group for a long period of time and you actually ask the player if they're tired, they're gonna lie. They're gonna lie to you, you know. And that's huge for me. And I think there's kind of like top 3 things. There's lots that we can explore, but I'm too busy trying to explore myself, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's how you do it, I suppose. As you said, self-exploration to benefit everybody else out there, I suppose, externally. But that's the thing as well, like that you said about when you're coaching players, like, they're all like, I know the word in Ireland for it will be grand. It's like, you turn up and you're like, how are you feeling today? I'm grand, 100%. And it's like, well, how sore are you after yesterday? My quads are probably about a 6 or a 7 out of 10. It's like, well, then you're not grand, mate, when you relax. Go on the bike there, do some active recovery. But they'll always want to do more, the athletes, and sometimes you have to pull them back a little bit, even though, as you said, our job is to push.
Yeah, I had that with Alex a few times. Like in our first year, we did his NFL off-season prep. Like, he would message me, and he's like, I'm fucked. I'm a bit fucked. I'm like, all right, well, you're not coming in today. He's like, no, I can train. No, you're not coming in. He's like, you're not going to get paid. I said, I don't care, because we'll lose it on the back end.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you need, you know, I'll take a day off. Shit, I don't give a fuck. Give me a day off, mate. You know, and
you could use that the other way as well. See, mate, your metrics haven't been good recently. You're taking the day off.
And so, and then he came in, like, and he was like, I was like, oh, do you feel better? He's like, yeah. I was like, mate, you're not a club anymore. Like, you're with someone who, like, I give a shit about you. You don't have to lie to me. Like, we'll make this work. And then lo and behold, in March last year, like, I didn't get the Rona, but I was sick. I took 2 weeks off. I was like, mate, I'm fucked. Like, I can't come in. Like, I was just burnt out. And then I'd written the program, got my assistant in there to coach him through the program, because we were at that point. It's like, you still get your work in. Sharky's coming in to take care of you. We won't go as technical because we're not coaching, but, you know, you're still getting your work in. And I felt all right after the week. I was like, I'm thinking about coming back in Monday. I was like, nah, take a second week, mate. Don't worry. I've got this. We're in GPP. Like, you know, I miss you, but stay at home.
But that's athlete-centered care within a collaboration between athlete and coach. And that's what we need. Not just drive. And that's what you're trying to preach, I suppose. Not just having it all athlete-centered care, but not looking after the coach. And then how can you look after a group of 40 guys or whatever when you've only slept for 4 hours last night? Like, you know?
Oh, mate. Yeah. And I was thinking about this kind of like, if I was to summarize kind of like the problem with coaching, overstimulated and undernourished. So too much caffeine, too much information, not enough sleep, not enough love. You know, they don't have that in their world enough of. And I know that because I was there.
Yeah. And I like the way that you went for physical and you went for emotional there as well, like in terms of both.
There we go.
But
yin and the yang.
Yeah, yin and yang. But look, I know you're tight for time, so look, we could be on here for hours just talking about coaching till the cows come home. So I'm just going to rattle off a few quick fire questions to finish, if that's all right. And they might have
for sure
questions. Hopefully, you've never been asked on another podcast before. What artists have you been listening to a lot recently? Musical artists.
Jack Soveretti.
Jack Soveretti. Never heard of him, but I'll look into him tonight.
Welsh lad.
Genre?
Good singer. Kind of like folk rocky, like good wordplay in there. Like sets me up for my dates well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I always think that the music that you're listening to reflects kind of where you are in your life at the moment, or the one that you're most listening to. So that kind of gives us a picture of how zen you are at the moment. Yeah.
It's him and John Legend. They're the two that I'm listening to.
Oh, Jesus. He's going through I love there's a bit going on anyway. Right. What are you reading at the moment?
I am reading Edith Egar's book. Oh, I've forgotten what it's called now. The Gift by Edith Egar. She is one of the last surviving Holocaust members. She's a psychologist, and there's a great quote from her book, which just is most humbling. It's like all trauma is relative. I survived the Holocaust, or like, is me paraphrasing, I survived the Holocaust, but you losing your job could mean the same thing. And that's the big appreciation of understanding we need.
It's all our own experience, I suppose. Favorite rugby player of all time? Quick one.
Favorite Paul Sackey.
Paul Sackey, decent. Yeah.
Paul Sackey.
I never thought he
played
was
for Wasps.
Yeah. Oh, I know who he is. He took the crossfield kick against Ireland, and they kicked it across. He took it in the air, scored.
And I play on the wing, and I hate tackling. When he was sure,
we've lost Sam again, but I'm sure he'll be back.
He bloody hell.
You're back. Don't worry.
Am I back?
Yeah.
He made more tackles without actually making a tackle that anyone had ever made. Because that defense system, I was like, that's my guy. So I that's what I took from him.
Me and my mates always joke. We're all obviously backs, and we say tackling's optional. Just let the forwards do it. It's part of the game. You don't have to do it.
I was playing in a really physical game once, and I pushed hard and to get. I'm done. I'm drifting now.
Yeah, 100%.
This is in a game.
Yeah. Leave it off. Make them think that that you're going to tackle them, so they run into somebody else. That's the key.
Yeah.
All right. Favorite.
Tell me the tackle.
Favorite obscure footballer or footballing moment.
I'm just trying to think. I remember when there was that Rogue European Cup or Rogue Football Cup when Ronaldinho, was it Ronaldinho, the right back for Brazil, just scored that first time someone swerved the ball.
Roberto Carlos, yeah.
Roberto Carlos, yeah. First time you'd ever seen someone swerve a ball like that.
Yeah, I don't know why the ball. Wow. How did the ball not burst? Like,
yeah, ridiculous.
Okay, who would play you in the movie of You?
Chris Hemsworth.
Oh, he's so modest. Look at him go. um, and last one, big one. What would you tell your 18-year-old self?
Trust your gut.
Sweet. And on that bombshell, we're going to leave it there. Sam, do you want to plug the mentorship or your hero training program or whatever? Or where can people find you?
I don't have to.
Where can they find you?
Just at coach_Sportland. You know, if you have any questions about my mentoring or training programs, shoot me up on there or email me, sam@coachsportland.co.uk. There's options out there. You know, I don't use these to plug, so it's just a good chat. But thank you. Thank you anyway.
Good call. Thanks a million, mate. Appreciate you coming on.
Cheers.
Have a good one.
Thanks, mate. Cheers, mate.